Hey folks, it's Andrew from Gemba Red, and today we're going to be searching for the healthiest LED white light bulb, which sometimes that can be kind of a sacrilegious statement because a lot of people think that LEDs, especially white LEDs that emit blue light as part of the white spectrum, uh, are inherently bad for you for a number of reasons. So we're going to go through all that and see if we can find some healthy ones. I think I already did. We're going to be checking out some high quality ones from Waveform Lighting and from Yuji Lighting. These are kind of professional grade, but they really have reduced the flicker and improved the red spectrum. And then there's a couple of lower cost brands, Philips, Sylvania, and Cree, that all have higher CRI and good low flicker bulbs. And so I'm just going to show you kind of the measurements as we go along. What we're going to start with is actually take a look at the Sylvania halogen, which is a type of incandescent bulb that's in there right now. And we'll also take a look at this Sylvania. I think that's a standard incandescent bulb that goes into appliances, because everyone says, okay, we really need just to revert back to incandescent bulbs. Over here we've got a dirty electricity meter, so you can see kind of our baseline measurement is 7.3. So it's kind of bouncing around, but that's a pretty low number because I use dirty electricity filters. I've got my cornet meter and it's on, and we're just going to keep an eye on that. It's on the radio frequency. We want to just make sure that's still in the green zone. So both of these, people say, okay, LEDs, especially CFLs, but CFLs are a different technology, can emit some stray dirty electricity, or they can emit some stray radio frequency, which definitely not, this won't be a problem because all modern LEDs need to be compliant with FCC and other regulations. So we've got our Radix Lupin meter here. This is our flicker meter, and we can turn it on, check the flicker. So we're trying to beat an incandescent bulb, especially in terms of flicker. You can see this is at 14%. This is a halogen incandescent bulb. Again, this might be a mind-blowing measurement for some people because they literally believe that incandescent bulbs don't flicker, which they definitely do flicker. I don't know why some kind of experts say they don't flicker when they do flicker. They've probably never even taken a measurement. And then we're taking a measurement on our spectrometer, but it also does flicker measurements if I do it right. Yeah, so it comes up with 19% flicker. That's the depth, and almost 120 hertz, and that's pretty much expected for our power grid. But you can see the incandescent bulb is about 2700 Kelvin, so that's what we're going for a lot of our LED bulbs. If you want them to feel natural, you want about 2700 Kelvin, and you want a high RA value. That's your CRI, your color rendering index. And so incandescent bulbs do a pretty good job of that. They've got a lot of red, and a lot of times LEDs are lower. So what I picked out were a lot of higher CRI LEDs. And you can see some of the R values here from 6 through 10. I don't know what order, but they're all very high for the incandescent bulb. But just to reinforce, there definitely is flicker, and it's not insignificant. In fact, if we go to the flicker analysis, it says it's a high risk. It shows you the waveform, but it says the incandescent bulb is high risk. So that's a very interesting problem, is that according to some flicker criteria, is that incandescent bulbs are actually unsafe for flicker. So that's two mind-blowing things for people who worship incandescent bulbs, is that one, they do flicker, and two, according to some standards, it could be considered a high-risk amount of flicker. So very, kind of mind-blowing stuff. So we're going to swap out the incandescent bulb, and I want to show you first a compact fluorescent, which we know these are pretty heinous and will really show us kind of what we don't want to see, you know, and I think people need to see that kind of contrast. So let me see if I can set that up. I don't know if I'll have to kind of crop the video because you don't want to just watch me changing bulbs for minutes at a time. I'm going to use an elf glove because this bulb gets hot. Okay, we're definitely gonna have to crop the video for the next ones because you don't want to watch all these me changing bulbs every time. Okay, so we've got the fluorescent bulb in, and if you remember before, this was about 7 and it jumped up to 16. So I wanted to really show you this because really proves my experimental setup. I've got my power line dirty electricity meter connected right next to, this is the black one, and then the brown one goes to my lamp. So it did jump up, so if I turn it off, we're back down to about 7, right? I turn it back on, and it jumps up. So we do see a little bit of dirty electricity that jumps up. So that's what we want to see if the LEDs cause this kind of jump. Because we know compact fluorescents and fluorescents have a different style driver that causes it. But again, you can see the cornet's still in the green. There's no radio frequency. We can check the flicker. Flicker's not terrible. It's only 8.8, so that's actually better than the incandescent bulb. And we're going to retake this. So you can see the spectrum of the fluorescent is just out of control. Like, who knows? But you see the color corrected temperature is not terrible. It's almost 2700. So it doesn't feel like a very heinous kind of color. The RA is only 80, and that's, you know, again, that's your CRI, your color rendering index. So it's a pretty, you know, average CRI. But you can see a lot of the wavelengths aren't very well representative. There's a lot of little spikes. And according to this has a 22, almost 23% flicker depth. So definitely there is some flicker. You know, we just kind of proved that, you know, you can cause the dirty electricity to jump up if you have something that's causing high dirty electricity. Yeah, so again, so this is kind of, you know, kind of almost the worst case scenario. And even now, a modern fluorescent doesn't seem as terrible as when they first came out, and they were pretty heinous. All right, so let's get into something interesting. We're going to look at the Waveform Lighting and then the Yuji right after that. Those are two professional grade ones. Okay, we've got the Waveform Lighting bulb in. I can tell it's very bright bulb. So the Yuji and the Waveform, they're both about 10 watt LEDs. They say they're a 60 watt equivalent. Let's see, maybe you can read it. It's a 60 watt equivalent. So they're pretty bright bulbs, and that's my only problem with these, other than the price. The price is almost 18 to 20 bucks per bulb. Other than the price, they're very bright. And so in some areas they're a little too bright, but for kind of filling up a big room, you know, it's a good amount of brightness. So, but for like bedrooms and stuff, I think it's too bright. So put on the Radix Lupin, very low flicker, 0.7%, so that's extremely low. We'll take a new measurement. Very nice spectrum. Again, 2700, so that's going to feel like an incandescent bulb spectrum. The CRI is 97.9, which is very impressive. You know, it doesn't register any flicker. And yeah, you get a little peak of it of blue, but if you use the 2700 CRI, you can see it's not a terrible peak like a lot of the higher brightness, the cool white LEDs, and I think that's what gave the market kind of a bad perception, is that the cool white ones, the 4000 Kelvin, the 5000 Kelvins, those were a big problem with too much blue light. Coronet, again, no change, and this shows no change. If not, it's still about 7. So there's no change on the dirty electricity front. We can turn it off. Still 6, 7. So really no change when you turn it off. Turn it back on. And still no change. Yep. So it's still hovering around, low 7 point something. So again, really no issue, no change with that. It's a really nice bulb. Overall, I've been using some Waveform Lightings for a couple years, and like I said, I was just looking for some cheaper bulbs that were a little less bright, because they don't offer anything less than a 10 watt. So now I just screwed in the Yuji, and the Yuji, this one claims to be a 3000 Kelvin, so maybe it appears a little bit more like a bright white. Let's take the spectrum measurement. So you see that blue peak jumps up a little bit because it's a 3000 Kelvin bulb. So that's why you want to stay closer to 2700, because anything as you go up in color temperature, even to 3000, it's going to keep kind of creeping up that blue peak. So that's why staying at 2700 is really important for me, and for kind of comfort levels and having less blue. And then the RA is still phenomenal, 97. So that means you got a really nice spectrum. So again, if you need a brighter, the 3000 Kelvin, so maybe for more professional use, this is a really fantastic bulb. Let's double check the flicker. Flicker's like fantastically low, 0.49. So again, it's practically nothing. What's the cornet say? Still green. And then this, again, there's no change in dirty electricity. It's about, it's just about the same as incandescent or anything else. It doesn't affect the meter the way the compact fluorescent would. So again, super healthy. Again, these are the premium options, the Waveform and the Yuji. But they're definitely the cream of the crop. I prefer the Waveform because they offer it in 2700 Kelvin too, and Yuji, the lowest that they offered was 3000. So we're going to move on and do a couple of the more affordable ones, and then these ones are 40 watt equivalent, so they're a little less bright, so I wanted a few of these around the house. This one's 100 watt, so if you need something with higher brightness, then this is 100 watt, but we'll try to quickly go through all those now. So we've got the Philips 40 watt in here. It's probably my top choice for kind of a little bit lower wattage, affordable, not the premium ones like Yuji and Waveform. Let's check the measurements. So the flicker is really good. It's 2.6%, so not as good as the professional grade, but still better than an incandescent bulb. So again, that should be mind-blowing to people, just to keep reminding them. This one says, okay, we've got, CCT is 2700. RA is 91.7, so that's really good for a cheap, like a cheaper bulb. So it's, a little bit less red than Yuji and Waveform, but still really good if you want something really natural. Like I said, it's a little less bright, so I enjoy it in the bedroom or in bathrooms or places that I don't want as much brightness. And, really nice kind of spectrum going on. So, okay, cornet, nothing's going on. And somehow the meter is, it's still around 7. It's kind of so it's almost looking like it was lower at first, but it's about 6 to 7. So it's really, again, no change in dirty electricity. Turn it off. 6.97, what we've been seeing all along. Turn it back on. So still, it almost looks lower. Like, doesn't it go down a little? Like 6.6 now? It's weird. All right, so that's the Philips. I really like this one. I've been using it in the bedroom for a while before I switched to my red bulbs. Okay, this one's going to be bright. This is the Sylvania. Ooh. And I really like these Sylvanias. We'll talk about dimming later on. But this is their Sylvania True Color Series. So again, they're trying to emphasize that they've got higher CRI. Let's take a measurement. So we just took that measurement, again, 2793 RA, which is fantastic. Let's look at the flicker. Flicker is 1.5, so again, really fantastic for an LED, but much better than a incandescent. We got still green on the cornet, and maybe we're at 7.5 now, so 0.5 of a difference, so maybe, especially with the higher wattage ones, this is 100 watt equivalent, so you might get a little bit more dirty electricity if it's pulling more power. So it's not super surprising, but again, it only went up by 0.5, so a little bit of a uptick, but nothing to worry about. Let's see if I can do a quick swap to my Cree. Okay, so we got the Cree kind of Pro series. I'll put, I'll have all the links in a blog and everything. But again, really good RA of 92. Flicker, I think, is a little bit higher on this one, so it's 8.4. That's better, still, again, better than an incandescent, but, it's a little bit higher than the Philips and Sylvania. But, again, overall, it's a good little bulb. Again, is it lower now? It's like the dirty electricity is a little bit lower when you have a couple of these bulbs in, so maybe somehow how their electronics, maybe it's just lower. Like my house kind of can go up and down if there's stuff going on in the power grid, so it's not the bulb. So anyway, it's not the bulb, but still reading super low. Doesn't seem to be affecting it at all. There's something going on in my power line right now that might have dropped it. Okay, so we did that Cree, another really good bulb. And actually, this is another Cree. This is not a Pro series. It's more their standard line up here. I'll take a measurement. So we see, the blue dropped down a little bit, still RA of 92. We get a little bit of flicker, still about 8%, so still better than an incandescent, but still really good. And maybe these Crees are a little cheaper because it's their generic lineup, but we don't see much change in dirty electricity or anything going on. So if it's reading about 5, 6, you can turn it off and turn it back on. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it changes anything going on. So yeah, so that's the lineup. So we got a lot of really great options. These two are the premium options, but sometimes they're a little too bright. But if you've got a bigger room, then these will be fine. This one's great. I like this one for the bedroom. Super low flicker. More affordable. This one's a brighter one, 100 watt equivalent, so if you need something a little bit more bright. Also very low flicker. And then these ones have kind of 8% flicker, but you know, really good kind of value. So again, so we have a lot of really safe LED bulbs, much safer than people might have perpetuated in the past. You can have less flicker than a incandescent bulb, and you know, you can really enjoy an LED bulb these days if you get the right kind. You know, and we'll maybe do a wrap up video another time. And I almost forgot to show you this little Sylvania incandescent bulb. Looks like it's like a replacement for appliances, but it's a little 40-watt incandescent replacement. And just to remind, it's not, you know, so you get still 10% flicker. Sometimes it's, yeah, so this one says 14% fluctuation depth, but again, the RA value is really good. CCT is 2700, so again, you know, and you get this whole range that's invisible, so that's why they're not energy efficient. You get a very long range of you know, light that doesn't actually give you visible light. And again, if you want to use these therapeutically closer to your body, but that's fine. But you know, there's no point of putting these like in overhead light fixtures where you're going to be 10 feet away from them and you're not going to get any therapeutic value for all this wasted heat, and then you're just going to be heating up your ceiling and your fixtures, and there's no biological benefit to that. So you know, you can use these therapeutically, but again, there's, you know, you gotta try to save some electricity and use some of these higher quality LED bulbs that are out there, and you know, people haven't really tried very hard to find high quality ones like I just did, that are lower in flicker than the incandescent bulbs. All of these were lower in flicker than the incandescent bulbs. You know, no effect on, you know, practically no effect on the EMF readings and dirty electricity readings. And again, you know, much higher quality in terms of the color rendering. That's what all these can do. They're all the latest versions that give you better color rendering. So very important kind of summary to wrap up, just to make sure people, you know, you can use incandescent bulbs the right way therapeutically, but we can start to switch to more energy saving, higher quality LEDs that give you less flicker and better coloring than in the past. All right, well, thanks for tuning in.